What must we do to inherit eternal life? How many of us have asked ourselves this question over and over again? Well, today's scriptures make it easy for us to understand that in order to inherit eternal life, we must love God first and love your neighbor. Today in the Gospel of Luke, Jesus urges us to treat everyone as our neighbor, whether we know them or not. Jesus tells the parable of the Good Samaritan because it shows the kind of selfless love we should have for one another. You see, there was a man that was robbed on his way from Jerusalem, on his way to Jericho. He had 3 people approach him. As he walked, bloodied and bruised, the priest and the Levite both ignored him. They saw him and walked on the other side of the street. Probably for good reason. I mean, how many of us would be fearful if we saw somebody walking around bloody? I know I would. Let's close our eyes for a second, and let's put ourselves on the road to Jericho. I imagine it being hot, walking barefooted, dirt on the floor. What would have kept you from helping the man who was robbed? Or what would have motivated you to help? I know for me, fear is what probably would have held me back from helping. We as humans are not just naturally fearful. It's that fear that has helped us survive as a species. But in this case, I would imagine that fear would be a contributing factor to me not helping him. The Samaritan was the one who was so moved that he approached the victim. He tended to the victim and his wounds. He didn't stop there. He then lifts the man and takes him to an inn where he pays for a few days' stay. We have no reason to believe that the Samaritan knew the man that he was moved to help. He was moved to help because it was the right thing to do. Again, the Samaritan helped him because it was the right thing to do. How many of us have found ourselves feeling a little nervous or scared when we see people because of how they look? Sometimes that fear can really prevent us from doing God's work. People who may not look like us, people who live differently than us for whatever reason. Heck, even that coworker that just touches that nerve. These are the people that Jesus tells us to show mercy to show love to. It's easy to show love and mercy to those we know, but what about those we don't know? In Deuteronomy, we read that it isn't some big mystery. It ends by saying that God's law is very near to us, already in our mouths and in our hearts. Brothers and sisters, if you're here today, and if you're joining us online through Facebook, then the ability to carry out what Jesus is asking us in Luke is very much possible. To love the Lord with all your hearts, with all your being, with all your strength and mind, and to love your neighbors as you love yourself. As a person who lives here on earth, aren't we all neighbors, even if we don't live near each other? Go and do likewise, he says. What does it look like to love our neighbors? Loving your neighbors can look like the typical stuff, like baking a cake or just saying good morning to each other. But we can find a way to give back. There are plenty of opportunities to give back. Literally all I had to do was do a Google search, and there were plenty of stuff here to do locally. This week, my brothers and sisters, let's try to help someone. Let's try to help someone out, a neighbor who needs help with their yard, or maybe someone you know that needs a ride somewhere. Does anyone you know need help with food? For those of us that are a bit braver to go out and try and help someone you don't know, you know, when I'm passing out my care packages, I can't help but to feel as though I'm the Good Samaritan. This week, let's go out and be more like the Good Samaritan and less like the priest or the Levite. Love on our brothers and sisters who may not have anyone to love on them. Pray for them. Love them as you would yourself. Thank you.